and welcome back to a bonus episode of the Let's Talk Near Death podcast. I'm Kirsty Salisbury, your host. You may not recognize me because, as you can tell if you're watching the video version, I've had a little bit of a haircut. So we've been in lockdown here for a little while, quite a while actually, and it got to the point where we all just desperately needed haircuts. And I gave the dog a groom first. The dog got her haircut. She looked fine. Did my husband, gave him a number, something all over number 4 or something, looked good. He looked like he came straight out the army. And then he joked, oh, now it's your turn. And do you know what? I thought, why not? We take life so seriously. I thought, why not do it? Why not just shave my head? And it's something which I've wanted to do for such a long time. And I don't know whether it goes back to when I was younger, I had my surgery, so I had half a shaved head. And there's something there where I feel like I needed to finish off the job. I'm not quite sure, but I thought, what the heck, let's do this. So I shaved my head about 6 weeks ago. When I say shaved, if you're not watching the video version, it's a couple of centimeters long. Like you can see, I don't know if you can see that. There is a couple of centimeters there. So we didn't go too bad, simply because I've got this scar, which I don't think you can see too well. It starts here, goes all the way up around there. You can sort of see a little bit there. However, on some days when I wake up, I'm like, oh, there it is. But I didn't want people to be able to see the scar because that's just a whole nother level of that. So I thought, let's have some fun. I did it. It was a little bit scary, I have to say. I've got short hair anyway because it doesn't grow too well. I've had a fair bit of radiation and things like that. So it's pretty thin. It doesn't grow too well anyway. But here we are. So the elephant in the room, yes, I've had a little haircut, and I don't know, it's really easy. It's quite fun. I didn't do it because I thought it would look good. I did it because I wanted to just break something that I felt was quite heavy in my life at the time. I found things pretty tough lately. I thought, why not do it? I've recorded the whole season. I thought it's all good. I'm at the end of the season. We've done the recording. It'll grow back before I need to do anything in front of the camera. But here we are, because we have a bonus episode today. And I'm super excited because season 11 has been all about after-death communication, as you know, if you've been following along. It's been fascinating. I have learned so much. And I think that listeners have learned quite a bit too, because the emails have been coming in. If you have emailed me, thank you so much. I have had an abundance of people saying, this happened to me, and sharing some stories with me. It has just confirmed in me how real this topic is and how much we need to talk about it. Now, there are some exciting things coming up. Like I say, this is a bonus episode to put in some of those stories. So it's a little compilation episode. There's going to be a few of those in this season. This one is just to put in a few stories. I'm going to read out to you some of the emails that I've received of people's personal accounts of connection with the other side after somebody has died. But also, I've been speaking with Stephen Berkeley. Now, Stephen is the writer and director of the film Living with Ghosts. And this is an amazing film where he talks about the experience of his mother, who felt like her husband was still around all the time after he died. She felt like he was living in the house with her. And it got to the point where Stephen decided to make a documentary about this. He touches on some different topics. He touches on automatic writing, how we might get messages if we sit down and write, how there's connection all the time, there's conversation all the time. It's a beautiful film. It talks a lot about love. It talks a lot about grief. It's not so much about, it's nothing about ghosts really. It's all about just connection with the other side and how this life is quite likely temporary. Well, I believe it's very temporary. So we have been discussing this and decided to come up with a little sneak peek for you. Stephen has offered to give us a 17-minute version of his film, which we will do as a private event. We're going to come in, we're going to have a private event where we watch the 17-minute film, and then we're going to have some live Q&A with Stephen afterwards. So if you want to be a part of this, it's open for everybody. You don't even have to be a listener of the podcast. Anybody who might be interested to come and hear more about the film, ask Stephen a little bit more about it. My first question was, what led you to write this? What led you to go to all of this effort to create it? And he's got some interesting stories. If you want to come along and ask your questions, you are invited. However, you do need to register. It's a private event. It won't be released publicly because we don't have, well, I don't have the rights to do that. And we want to really honor Stephen and his work and make sure that he can follow all of the guidelines that he needs to do. His film has been shown in different places around the world. So if you want to be a part of that, you just need to click on the little link that's in the show notes below and go through and register for that. And you can share that link out if you've got friends who you think might want to come and watch this 17-minute film, plus have some Q&A. You're very welcome to do that. All you need to do is click on the link, put in your email address, and then we'll give you the details. So if you're listening and you're a VIP listener, normally I funnel everything through to my VIP listeners, and they don't really have to ask. They don't have to do anything. It just shows up in the VIP area. This one you will actually need to register for. So if you want to join myself and Stephen Berkeley, the writer and director of Living with Ghosts, then you need to just click on that link and register. It's exciting. So that is coming up. Let me tell you some details. That's coming up on the 5th of December if you are in New Zealand or Australia. If you are in the US or the UK, Europe, it's going to be on the 4th of December. So it's on the 4th of December at 4 p.m. Eastern time, which is 9 p.m. if you're in Europe, London. It is 8 a.m. Sydney time on the 5th of December and 10 a.m. on the 5th. But when you go through to that link, you're going to find all that information. And I think it's going to be really exciting to actually learn more about Stephen and his work and why he's created this documentary. So Living with Ghosts, it's going to be exciting. Don't forget to register. Now, I know that you want to hear some of the stories. I'm going to share some with you today. So let me just click on over. If I look like I'm reading from a screen, it's because I'm actually reading from a screen because I want to get the words correct. And so I've had quite a few emails. If your experience is not in here, it may be that it's going to come in a later email. If it isn't here, thank you so much. I've had quite a few emails, and like I say, I've been having a lot on my plate lately, so I apologize if I've missed any, but I'll start with one. This is from Julie. Julie says, I know my mum is there with me because on my birthday, she plays a song without fail from a ballet concert that I did when I was around 15 years old. This year, I hadn't heard the song all day, and I thought she'd forgotten. I had the radio on all the way home from work, and my partner called, and we spoke until I got to the front of the house. But as soon as I got off the phone, the song was playing. Now, I had a little bit of back and forth with Julie around this, and it turns out that the song that she played, it's from a ballet concert she did when she was 15 years old. Now, Julie is no longer 15 years old. You know, there's a few years have passed there. And every year without fail, she knows that her mum will communicate with her through this song, which I think is beautiful. Had a conversation with Mike, who shared how a long time friend came to visit him. Unfortunately, this friend actually suicided, and it was really tough for the friend at the end. But when he came back to Mike, he was saying, he came with a message of forgiveness and I'm okay. So I found that really reassuring. I find that beautiful. If you've listened to my previous episodes, I do think there are consequences for suiciding. I don't necessarily promote that as a great option. However, it was wonderful to know that his friend had come back to him and they hadn't actually seen each other for quite a few years. So again, a back and forth conversation that I've just summarized there. Great to know that his friend was okay. Now, Kathy says, I've experienced several after-death communication experiences, mostly from my dad who died from COVID. He had an old computer that housed years of files and information that I frequently asked him to show me how to access. Even with copious notes, I had trouble getting into the dratted machine after he died. After days of typing, I finally managed to gain access to find the files that were necessary for his estate. That night, as I slept in his former bed next to the desk with a computer on it, I was startled awake by the computer spontaneously turning itself on in the middle of the night. I'd slept there many times over several weeks since his death, and it's never happened before. The light on the computer screen illuminated the picture of my dad on the shelf above the computer, and I knew that he was congratulating me on finally unlocking his secrets. I really like this. It reminds me of the story that we had in episode 1, where we were talking to different people, a bit of a compilation episode. And I was talking with Lonnie, and Lonnie shared the story about how he was with his friend and their cell phones rang each other right at the same time, which is totally impossible. And it reminds me of that because technology comes up again and again in these experiences where we have things turning on, turning off, messages, phones, all sorts of things like that. So I love that one. I'm so glad you got into it, Kathy, because that can be a nightmare if you just don't know where to even start or what to do with people's things and estates after they've gone. Now, Jane says, I've had several after-death communications. My mother-in-law, who was agnostic, appeared to me just as I was falling asleep, and I clearly saw her. That's in capital letters, so she really says that she saw her. She says it scared me and my heart was pounding, and I know she wanted to let me know that I was right there and that there was life after death. She says that she also had a message from her father. She says, my father gave me a spirit photo of himself on my cell phone. I'd asked him to leave a spirit orb on it. That's all the information I have about that part of the story. But again, technology comes into it. Again, it's right as she's falling asleep, which has been quite a common theme throughout the episodes that we've been hearing, is when we're in that relaxed state, we have these visitations. The next story is from Matthew. He says, a few years back, a close family friend named Brian passed away after a grueling battle with cancer. Brian had said numerous times in his life that when he died, he would try very hard to communicate from the other side. And after his passing, he came to his wife and others, including my mum, who had been like a big sister and was there at his side much of the time that he was in hospital. He came in dreams, and he even appeared to my mum briefly as an apparition at one point. But about a year went past without any obvious experiences of my own. A year after Brian's passing, I had a dream where I met Brian. Oddly, I couldn't see his face, just his form, but I knew it was him. And I told him that I was happy to see him, and I embraced him. I couldn't remember anything that he said except for one word, Tualatin, and I hope that I can say that right. It's the name of a town here in Oregon. I asked my mum about it, and she mentioned it to his wife as well, but neither of them had any idea. A couple of months later, when I was at work and I was thinking about Brian, something clicked. One of the main things that stood out about Brian to those who knew him was his absolute love for Bigfoot. His favorite movie was Harry and the Hendersons, and his favorite show was Finding Bigfoot. He was the biggest fan of Bigfoot that I knew. So I decided to look up Bigfoot in Tualatin, and the first Google hit was the Oregon Bigfoot Festival, which was going to take place in just a couple of weeks. And you guessed it, Tualatin. Needless to say, I was kind of blown away, and I decided that Brian wanted me to go to this festival. I was able to bring one of his sons, Kyle, and another friend who was also close to Brian, along to the festival with me. We had a really good time, and it was a way of remembering and honoring Brian. The dream has guided me in such a specific way, and it really stands out to me. So these are some amazing examples where people feel like they're being communicated with after their loved ones have died. I have one more to share with you, and this one was sent in to me by Lawrence, who actually recorded this for me, which is wonderful. Thank you, Lawrence. So I'll leave you to have a little listen.
Hi, this is a story about Chrissy, who was an elderly woman who was a neighbour of mine that I befriended, and we'd often hang out and chat away about quite spiritual matters. And she'd had quite a hard life, but she had a really bright, childlike joy at life and a spiritual connection. And we'd often talk about spiritual matters, and she'd said that when she passed, she'd be in touch and we'd one day go on bike races on the other side, which I hope could happen. Anyway, we were in touch regularly, and then I moved away, and we were more in touch just via cards and things. I didn't see her as much. And then one year I didn't receive Christmas cards from Chrissy, and I got a little worried. So I looked up her name, and sure enough, I saw a death notice, and that she died a couple of months earlier. And it absolutely broke my heart. I was very upset that day, feeling bad. Why didn't I see her more? And all the usual things. Anyway, I just thought, well, I'll just get on and clean the house. So I'm in my kitchen and I'm just cleaning up, and all upset and thinking about Chrissy. And then I hear this great clatter of noise from the sitting room. And I went through to the sitting room, and the doors and the windows had all been closed. But in that room, the coffee table had been flipped on its head. There was a coaster on top of the table that was missing. There was a little angel that we had on top of a sort of Christmas angel on top of a bookcase that was on the floor, and all our jackets that had been on the backs of chairs were on the floor. And at first I'm like, what on earth happened here? And then it just all made sense to me. I thought, this is Chrissy. She always said she'd be in touch, and this is exactly what she'd do. And it absolutely just made me, laugh and cry tears of joy. I felt actually really uplifted by it. And I loved the playful element of it. And I loved that the coaster that had gone missing had the words, "Keep calm and carry on it. And it didn't show up for 2 days. It appeared in our kitchen 2 days later. And I said to my wife, "Oh, did you find it?" And she said, no, it just appeared there in the kitchen. Anyway, I thought that was a lovely message from the other side from Chrissy.
Well, that's it for today's bonus episode. I hope you enjoyed that. There are many more experiences. I've just put in a handful there. Like I say, these happen all the time. If you would like to join us for the 17-minute movie from Stephen Berkeley, the movie Living with Ghost, which is actually talking about after-death communication, you need to click on that little link below. You need to click there. You need to register and put in your email address there to get the information about this private screening. So that event will be watching the 17-minute film. It'll be talking live with Stephen at the end, a live Q&A, so you can join in, you can ask your questions, find out a little bit more about his experiences, about his motivation, how the film's going. Lots of good stuff there. If you want to do that, please register. We would love to have you there. Like I said earlier, you can share it with your friends. I look forward to that, which will be another bonus episode. There's going to be a few bonuses because this topic has just been so incredibly exciting that I can't keep it all into one season. So there are bonuses coming. If you want to join us, please register, and I look forward to catching you in our next episode, which I'm just about to release now. Have fun, and I'll catch you soon. Thanks for joining me for another episode of the Let's Talk Near Death podcast. Don't forget to subscribe to stay updated with all of the events we have going on, and to visit www.letstalkneardeath.com to join the VIP community.